Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Today we have Merlyn, who's a product marketing manager in Google. So, Merlyn, welcome. Could you briefly introduce yourselves to the alumni?
Yes, for sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Merlyn. I work in Google as a product marketing manager for YouTube ads. I graduated in 2019 and I've been studying a double degree in business administration as well as economics, specializing in finance. So a very recent graduate and very new to the working space, and I hope that I can share some valuable insights with you here today on the tech marketing space and also my sentiments on fresh graduates in general.
Great, good to hear you. How has studying economics shaped your career in any way?
So to be honest, when I first started working in tech and marketing, I was very deliberate about it. I studied finance and economics, and whereas my classmates who did the same subject would usually pivot towards more, analytical fields like banking, like consulting, for example. For myself, because I am someone who's a half and half, I wanted a job that, has a mix of both. So for me, marketing was a good field for me to explore both of these areas, which I was interested in. And economics for me really helped in terms of not direct application, but a lot of the context behind what I do and then setting the groundwork is extremely helpful. So one example of this is behavioral economics, where you apply a lot of these like factors on what are the influences behind consumers' attitudes, beliefs, decisions into the work that I do. So one example is campaign marketing, which is something that we do very often within marketing across the entire industry. And you know that people's decisions are often, irrational and being influenced by seemingly irrelevant aspects of the environment, and this doesn't actually point to what seems logical. So in email marketing campaigns, we look at things like people are more likely to take actions when there's a sense of urgency and there's like a deadline over here. So we try to build it in our communications. Another example of behavioral economics being applied into my day-to-day job is endowment effect, for instance, where you're more likely to attribute value to things which you already own versus things that you don't own. So in our communications, we would try and pivot to cater to that. So for instance, saying things like, your special deals are already here versus, here's a special deal for you. So there's a lot of these like signs behind what we do and how we think about it. And it's extremely interesting in being able to apply what I learned to what I do in my day-to-day. Another way which economics has been pretty relevant is also to give a lot of background context behind why the world is the way it is today, and how should we respond to it. So one aspect of marketing in Google is also called brand and reputation, where we look at topics like privacy, topics like thought leadership engagement, and how the world leaders should think about like change making. So all these are pretty, heavy and professional topics which require a lot of thought behind it. And when you understand how the world is being shaped by econs, it shapes your thinking about how you should respond to these issues. And when you're making like communications around it, that makes it a lot more helpful.
Wow, but a lot of like economics and science behind, very interesting. So maybe you can share with me a snapshot. How is it working like in a tech firm like Google? Has that shaped yourself and your career?
Well, being in tech has been extremely exciting. So from the very get-go, when I was choosing my internships, I already knew that I wanted to work in tech and not in a public space. And the reason behind that is tech is ever dynamic and ever changing. It doesn't stick to hierarchy and it doesn't stick to rules. It's not, the most senior person who, has the biggest stake in how decisions are made. It's all about, how big your idea is, how much potential your idea is in changing the business or like affecting the way which we do things. So because of this like culture of being dynamic and respecting change and innovation, we are always looking forward. It's a new day every single day and you're never doing the same thing. So that to me is extremely exciting. For us, a lot of the things we do is not static. You're not being hired to do XYZ specifically. Like, that's not your job. You're being hired to think about a problem. So a lot of the times, this problem is very ambiguous. And you need to think about how you can shape it. And while it's not the easiest job in the world to think about how to tackle a particular problem, it gives you a lot of room to maneuver it in the way that you want it to be and carve out your own job scope. So that to me is incredibly exciting and also appealing in how like tech marketing and also in general how Google works. So that's one. The other thing is actually the culture in tech, how we are not afraid of being the first to do something. So in a lot of companies, I think mistakes is something which is very like feared upon. Like you don't want to make mistakes. You want everything to be perfect. But because of this culture of innovation in tech, we recognize that mistakes is an essential process to improvement. And it's not about like what mistakes you make. It's about how you learn from your mistakes and share it with other people so that in the future you can build on these mistakes to make an even better product or make an even better process. So mistakes are actually something that's being celebrated within this field, tech and marketing itself. So that to me is very encouraging, and it's also very empowering in what I do. So the last thing is that I learned ever since I graduated from NUS is about preciseness and eloquent expression. I come from like business and econs, and like presentation and class part is everything, right? But after working in Google, where there are so many global stakeholders, you have like people from every single country. Sometimes English is not their native language, and they may not be the most eloquent people. But when you look at how they express themselves and their ideas, it made me realize that, actually having the most eloquent expression isn't the most important. It's all about the idea behind the expression and how you convey people to get on board your idea. One example that I have is my boss. She is Korean, so English is not her native language, but she's extremely persuasive, and she's able to give like the right examples and the right expression in order to get someone on board. If you want like more specific examples of this, I can also give you, but I feel like that's another conversation for another day. But in sum, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I think tech is ever changing, ever dynamic, ever exciting, and it's been keeping me on my toes and learning every day. So you just feel like you are drinking from the water hose at all times, but then instead of being fearful and like being anxious about it, you learn to get
excited. There's the adrenaline going on.
Correct. You learn to get excited and you learn to get used to it, and that's what keeps us going.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Its culture is very, very different in Google, and I see you prospering and doing well. Keep as the innovation ongoing and keep you thinking. That's a very good culture, and good to hear that. Thank you very much, Merlyn.
Thank you.